What's up? What's cracking? Who am I? Y'all don't know. Don't even pretend to know. A lot of times I don't even know. One thing I do know is that I'm a product of my own experiences and memories. Let me tell you a little something. I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, in a poor family, raised in the projects. When I think back to some of my memories, I think of my best friend in kindergarten, Kevin. We used to go out catching bugs and ants and doing stuff that little boys do all the time. One particular day, we went out and we were catching ants and we were burning them. We found ourselves in this abandoned car just out in the parking lot, and a match fell. That car caught on fire so fast, we ran. Man, we ran. I ran all the way back to my project, my apartment. And when I say apartment, it's projects. Anyone who knows anything about projects, they're cinder block buildings with windows. That's all they are, no insulation. But as I looked out the window and I watched that car burning, I still today can see the flames. Man. My next memory was my mom's waking me up in the middle of the night. I don't even know what was said. I was standing in the kitchen and the police were there. And my next memory is mom's waking me up again. Kevin was dead. You see, his daddy came home drunk. He was an alcoholic. He took an extension cord and beat him to death. My next memory, no kindergartner should ever have, and that's looking at an open casket with his best friend. My parents said we have to do something different. They wanted to get out. It took 3 years, but we moved out. We moved to what was called in Vegas at that time, we called the White Side. I was one of 2 kids that were black in my school. It's a huge flip. In the process of moving, we packed up all of our things, all of our items. We went over to our new house. We went back to get the rest of our items, and our project's been broken into and everything was stolen. In the meantime, in my new world, I was instantly, without testing, thrown into special ed remedial classes. I still to this day can see that classroom. I was the only one in there. Because who was I? Just a dumb black kid. My dad said, you're gonna have to do things very, very different. He said, Diaz, you have to learn the English language. You have to be able to articulate your words. You're gonna have to be able to talk so that people understand you, so that they respect the words that are coming out of your mouth and they understand the message and that they're actually listening. I hated it because every week he made me look up new words in the dictionary. I had to write them down, write the meaning, and I had to be able to use them in a sentence. Even as I stand here today and I'm talking to you right now, I have to really carefully craft my words. It's not my natural dialect. It's not what I fall back into. He made me practice my writing every week. And to this day, people say that I write like a woman. I take that as a compliment. Interestingly enough, when I'm on the phone, my wife says she can tell the difference between when I'm talking to my dad, talking to my sister, my mom, if I'm talking to a colleague, I'm talking to a buddy that I'm gonna go play around the golf with. I shift. And interestingly enough, back to my school experience, those kids that I grew up with were later shipped across town to my high school because Vegas was doing an integration, trying to mix all the kids up. All those black kids out of my neighborhood were now shipped to my new neighborhood and my new high school. The only 2 times I ever saw those kids, I was a captain of the basketball team. So in the basketball games, there was a whole section of black kids cheering for me. Regular black kids, gang members, the biggest drug dealer in the school, my cousin, he was in there. My school was 60% Mormon, so the rest of the kids were white. And oftentimes they say, Diaz, how do you know those kids? I went to school with those kids. I grew up with those kids early on. And the only other time I saw them is if I went over to their hall, where they all were in the hall where all their classes were, because that's who they were seen to be. You see, perception is reality. My reality is based upon how you perceive me, even now, as you sit there and you're listening to me talk. Who am I? Am I the kid that grew up in a poor, impoverished neighborhood, family riddled with abuse, violence? Am I someone who was pulled over numerous times because of the color of my skin? That's called a DWB, driving while black. A lot of you guys won't experience that. Am I someone who served on President Bush's New Freedom Initiative, advising for cultural and competency on the Diversity Network in Washington, D.C. for 4 years? Am I a community leader? Have I coached many teams? Am I the same person that came on this stage 6 minutes ago and started talking to you? Yes, I am. And I'm the CEO of Step 2, a substance abuse treatment facility for women and children, helping people get back on their feet, change their lives, change generations for their children. And how do I relate to them? I have to be able to relate to them and talk to them and help them and say, this is the program that you need. This is what you need to do to break a cycle. And I have to be able to say it in a convincing manner. And how do I pay for Step 2? How do I run the program? They don't have money. 98% of the women don't come to our program don't have a dime to their name. I have to be able to go to donors and foundations and people with money and community leaders and say, you really need to invest in this program. This is good for the community. It's two different worlds and the paths still cross. And the communication has to be there. And I have to understand who my audience is. I want you guys to understand that we all have preconceived notions. When someone walks up on the stage, someone walks in the door, someone stands in before you, or someone starts talking, whatever their dialect may be, recognize what those preconceived notions you might have because they're based off of your beliefs, your experiences, your prejudices. We all have them. So as I talk about who am I ask you, who are you? What is your reality? And who are you going to be? Deuces.
All right. Grand Rising family. How we doing? Hope you guys are having an amazing start to your morning. Got a little bit of morning grogginess. I don't know. I'm gargled, brushed my teeth. I don't know. It's just still it's like a frog. I think they call it like a frog in your throat, something like that. But I'm excited. I don't know about you wherever you are, but it's raining here in Pittsburgh, but it's not affecting my vibration. It's not affecting my mood. Um, Woke up a little tired, but ultimately super grateful to be on this call, super grateful for the message today. As you guys heard in the TED talk, the focus is really on perception, right? And I want to really emphasize and break down how your perception of things is actually identical to what your reality is. So for those that are just tuning in, for those that have never been on the call, welcome to Breakfast with Algeron. Obviously, I am your host. I will be on here every single Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, to share some value, to build our community, to really educate people on what they don't teach us in school. Because they can teach us all the information in the world. They can teach us how to measure things, geometry, right? It can teach us all this stuff, but none of it, right? Not won't say none of it, but a lot of it doesn't apply to how to live a fulfilling life. And I feel like that's the gap in our education system. Not to downplay it, not to say it's not important, but there's a lot of important things in life that we have to figure out on our own. And it's so important to figure things out as soon as possible so you can have a shorter learning curve than our predecessors and the people that lived on before us, like our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles. So the information I share on this isn't for me. It's not to hear myself talk, right? It's not to sound like I have it all down, but it's to share wisdom that's been passed on to me that I want to pass on to others because I really feel like it's going to help us be able to live the lives that we want to without always having to go through the consequences of making those mistakes. So that's the purpose behind why we have Breakfast with Algernon. You know, I don't do these calls for money. I don't do these calls for fame. I do them because I wish there was a Breakfast with Algernon for me growing up. You know, I had awesome parents, but there's just a limitation to what our parents can teach because they only know what they know. So that's a little bit background behind the purpose behind these calls in this channel. I do it on YouTube because I really want to amplify the message to be able to reach out to as many people as possible. And that's why we also are extended to Instagram Live. So I hope you guys truly enjoy the message. I hope you share this with people close to you that you feel like this can benefit. And we will get started in the next 60 seconds. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. So in the meantime, see if I can get another light on because it feels like it's a little dark since it's outside is gloomy. There we go. I like this. I like this a whole lot more. Awesome. So, in the meantime, I want you to say this to yourself, or if you're on the live, definitely drop it in the chat. 3 things that you are grateful for. So, as always, I'm grateful for my 2 beautiful girls who should be actually coming up and popping up on me sometime soon. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for my mom and dad. I'm grateful for Elay. I'm grateful for the Breakfast with Algernon community, for my close friends and family, for my business partners, my mentors, Jong Min, Nano, Brady Hudek, Eric Chapman. These are all just people within my organization. Just super grateful for a lot of the influence I've had over the past couple of years that have really shaped me into a completely different person, right? It wasn't too long ago I shared with friends of mine an old picture of me and they could not recognize me whatsoever. So it's just dope to really know that you can come from a very dark place in life and you can still always find a way to changing who you are. And that's part of the influence why I created this topic. Um, why I decided your perception is your reality is so important for us because, sorry guys, I'm like multitasking and talking and getting IG Live started. But that's why I feel like understanding perspective or your perception of things is super important because in order to understand why your reality is the way it is, you have to understand that it is the way that you're seeing it. So, super excited for this call. About to get started on IG Live. All right, looks like we're live on IG. I could have sworn I heard my little ones being dropped off. Give me 1 second, family. Okay. Like I said, I'm expecting my daughters to come in soon, so I wanted to make sure that hey, what's going on, Danielle? I wanted to make sure that they didn't pop up on me in the middle of the call. But like I said, your perception is your reality. So we're gonna get this call started. Super, super glad that able to come again on another Sunday, come together, just be able to share some value, share some insight, and really help better and live ourselves a fulfilling life. So let's talk about it. And instead of just jumping into, points or bullet points or whatever like that, I want to start off with a story to really set the pace for a topic. So there was a social experiment on perception, right? And the correlation it has with reality. And connections poor. It's weird. So there's a social experiment that happened between 5 individuals who were blind and they had never seen, right? This is a story. They had never seen an elephant before, right? So they were given the opportunity to actually experience being in the presence of one. But there was a catch, right? To understand perception and how it correlates with reality, Each person was given a certain part of the elephant to be able to feel, right? So one person, he got the chance of feeling like the elephant's legs. The other got to feel the trunk. The other one, the tusk, the tail, um, the eyelids, right? So these blind individuals had the opportunity of feeling a different part of the animal, right? And so the person that felt the legs, right? He was like, "Oh my goodness, this elephant, it's a wall," right? So in his mind, what he's feeling is a wall. Then the other individual who's feeling the elephant's tail, he's like, "No, this is a rope," right? The elephant's a rope. And another individual who's feeling the tusk, he's like, "No, this is marble. This is like stone," right? Other individual, he's feeling the elephant's eyes, and he's like, "Oh, the elephant's it's squishy, right? It's like slime." And forget what the other body part was, but I think it was more so the torso of the elephant. Um, and he described it as something hard. It was a believe he said it was a pillar, right? So what is this all? How does this all correlate, right? So all these individuals were right, right? They were given a limited exposure to the elephant, and in their minds that they were correct because I mean, in their own minds and in reality, they were correct based on the limitations of what they could feel. So this is how it correlates to perception is reality, right? Reality is all interpreted based upon how you see things, right? We all like to believe that when multiple people see the same thing, right? For us, that is confirmation of this is reality. That's why we have communities. That's why we have cliques. That's why we have friends or our certain circles, right? Because these group of individuals all share the similar or the same perception of reality, right? That's why your best friend is your best friend. That's why we share beliefs or we pick up when we're born. That's why we pick up a lot of the beliefs that our parents and our families instill on us because our perception is based upon the the mass belief that our families have passed on to us. So we start out from birth already accepting someone else's reality that we had no choice in the matter of, right? So that's why you typically notice that most families, right, they stay within a certain, financial bracket, right? Because that's the environment, that's the perception that's created when you're born, right? The family that you grew up with. So going back to the social experiment with the blind people, they were all right based on the limiting factors of information they were given, right? They were only able to feel a certain part of the elephant, not the complete picture. Now they argued back and forth, but then the person facilitating the experiment finally said, "Gentlemen, you all are right." And at the end of the day, they scratched their heads because they could not see why the other person described the elephant the way that they did, right? Because at the end of the day, people only know what they know. It's impossible to tell somebody a certain way of reality when they only have limited sources of information, right? That's why it's so important to really challenge yourself to challenge the status quo, challenging your upbringings, challenging your family's beliefs, because you're only kept in that box for as long as you choose not to think outside of it. So ultimately, right? Your perception is only based upon how you see your perception. Your reality is created based upon your perception, and your perception is based upon what? Your five senses. Who can tell me what the five senses are? Right? Who can tell me what the five senses are? Think about what the blind man couldn't do, right? What sense was affected for them to be blind? Taste, right? Smell, hear, touch, sight. So your perception of reality is based upon based upon the five senses. But, right, we are limited by only using those five senses. So what do you mean by that? How are we limited, right? We're limited just like the blind men were. If you're only using your five senses, you're just like the blind man that was feeling the elephant, that was only able to just feel the tail, that was only just able to feel the legs, the tusk, the eyes, the body, the torso, however you want to call it. By just relying upon the five senses, right? You are limiting yourself with the reality that's truly out there. So, a mentor of mine known as Bob Proctor, right? Highly recommend you guys check out Bob Proctor. He's a super, super, super amazing individual. He actually recently passed, right? Right? J Miles already knows. My boy J Miles is always on top of it. So you have to understand that there are higher faculties that Bob Proctor teaches, right? Now, I was saying earlier, unfortunately, he recently passed, but his teachings still live on. And he talks about having the higher faculties. And like my man Jay Miles said, perception is one of those, right? So, what is a higher faculty? Let's look it up because I want to make sure that we all start with the same understanding so that we can move forward. We can't move forward if one person's behind or not really understanding um certain concepts and meanings, right? And this is also educational for me because I want to make sure I can learn how to explain things as effectively as possible, right? So, what is a perception? I mean, I'm sorry, what is the higher faculties, right? So it says here, I don't really like this definition. So higher faculties, it says here that higher faculties denotes mental powers of a high order for understanding great literature. Great literature. See, so what that means is, see, I don't really, I don't really like that definition because it seems like it's talking about something else or it's steering to a different narrative. So, all right, I like this. All right, I got you. I got y'all, family. I got y'all. Right, ready? All right. So it says that it is our thoughts that define our habits and habits that define our behavior. The behavior builds our character, and it is the character that gets us the results in life. Therefore, right, it's a bit longer of an explanation. Therefore, it seems that in order to change our results, we need to work on our thoughts, and our thoughts originate from our mind. It is so unfortunate that we do not come with an operational manual for such a complex and powerful machine called body, and most of us spend our entire life using it well under its capabilities. It's just like carrying the latest smartphone and using it just to make and receive phone calls. What if we know the power and capabilities that we possess and the ways to strengthen it so we can do wonders in our lifetime? It's not so difficult as it seems, as history tells us that many of us have did so. If we understand these six mental faculties, right? Six higher faculties that defines us and our actions, we can bring a drastic positive change and perform at our best, right? So the six higher faculties are what essentially opens up and allows you to maximize your capabilities. And let's see what Jay Miles said. Basically, meaning that not using your five senses, seeing beyond the senses. Exactly. So only relying upon your five senses limits you to a limited reality. You're not seeing the bigger picture. Imagine looking at the Mona Lisa, but you're moving up this close, right? Your face is this far away from the painting. Are you able to see the entire painting when you're looking at things this close, guys? Yes or no? Are you able to see things, the bigger picture, when you're looking at it from this close up? No, exactly. You can't see the bigger picture if your focal point, if your vision is limited. So many of us go through life with a limited vision, and that in sense limits our reality. We're unable to see things from other people's perspectives. Or I want to ask, have you guys ever tried to explain something to somebody and you did absolutely the perfect job of being able to explain that clearly, right? And they still didn't get it. You ever tried explaining something, or your teacher, right? Has your teacher just attempted multiple times to make the connecting point to you and you just still don't get it, right? How many of us know people like that in our lives? So the reason why is because we're not making that connection with their reality. So in life and in business and schooling, however you want to consider it, right? You cannot teach others if you cannot make the connection to their reality. So it doesn't really matter what something truly is. It only matters if you're able to make the connection from your reality to someone else's. So let me give you guys another example, right? Some of us may consider this book as blue, right? I'm sure we can all agree on that. What that means is we all have the same perception in regards to the color of this book. But to somebody else, it could be black. It could be light blue. It could be a completely different color. Now, who's right? Who is right? Say somebody else said that this was black instead of blue, and we all agreed on our end that this was blue. Who's right? You guys can drop it in the chat. Appreciate you, J Miles. So the answer would be everybody, right? Because if we're focusing on perception, right? For us that say that this is blue, right? In our view, in our reality, this is blue. But the person that may see it as black, right? The person that may see this as a black notebook, they're going to see this the way that they see it because their perception of it is black, not blue. Now, a lot of us tend to disagree, right? When we have such a strong opinion on reality, we have such a strong perception on the way that something is, we tend to become debative, argumentative, right? We want to challenge one another. Sounds like it's my two little girls. Guys, give me 1 second, family. 1 second, family. Hold on. Hey, babies. Hey, come on in. See. Hey, baby. I'm on a call right now. Just take your shoes off. You guys grab some breakfast if you want to, okay? All right, family. And can you just close the door for me, baby? Yeah. All right, thank you. So ultimately, we choose to be argumentative or debative when we see that someone's reality isn't aligned with ours, right? But instead of isolating people, excluding, right, excommunicating, however you want to call it, right? It's important to make the connection and find a way of connecting one's reality to another. Now, in life, this is how you create your closest friends, right? The people that are close to you, the people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis, right? You are close with them. Dadpreneur. I love that, bro. I'm gonna have to steal that. I love that. So in life, your friends consist of the people who share the same perception of reality as you do. In business, right? This is what creates business partnerships, mergers, right? Ties that, last a lifetime, because when you can see things from another's perspective, you are by definition successful, because that's what business truly is being able to connect as many people as possible so that you move towards a common goal or mission to be able to attain its achievement. So when you're able to make that connection and you're able to build a community of people who share the same vision and they're all working simultaneously towards the same goal, you've achieved a level of success most people don't see in a lifetime. Now, I want you to understand how important that is, because in life, you cannot be successful by yourself. Anybody that you know of that is successful, anyone who you define as successful, did not achieve that by their self. They might have came up with the idea. They might have been the founder of that company or establishment or organization, but they did not achieve it. They did not drive it to where it's at without the company of individuals. You can think of Walmart, you can say Apple, Google, anybody, right? Any of those big companies, Amazon, they did not do it by themselves. They achieved their successes because they were able to understand their employees' perspective. They're able to understand that it's not just about what you do, it's about why you do it, right? And I did a call not too long ago explaining the why, right? Helping people understand how important it is that you start with your why. Because when people can see your perspective, right? When they see this is why you're doing what you're doing, that's what makes people want to join you. There are people who literally get Harley Davidson tattoos. They get Apple logo tattoos, right? They don't do it for the brand. They do it for the whys because their perception of reality is aligned with that company's. So when you see somebody who has a Harley Davidson tattoo in their arm and they don't drive, or I'm sorry, they don't ride a Harley, the they don't own a product from the brand, right? Because think about it, Harley Davidson is a corporate company, right? When we think of Harley, we see like the manliest of men, long beard, uh, leather attire, stuff like that, right? We don't realize that when they had those Harley Davidson tattoos, they're representing a corporate business. And it's funny because some people don't even own it, but yet they're willing to tattoo themselves. Why is that? It's because their perception of reality, when they saw the vision that Harley Davidson stood behind, right? And this could be any company. When you think about what these brands stand for, you don't join them necessarily for the product. You join them because of what they stand for. It's because your perception of reality is aligned with theirs, right? So think about Apple, right? I'm going to give you a lot of examples because I realize it's one thing to just talk and talk, but making examples and being able to give different examples to connect with your reality is what I'm achieving right now. So that's why I'm giving out the amount of examples I am. So Apple, for example, amazing I mean, they're a good brand. But as we know, there are so many other competitors that Apple has. And to be very honest, because I have Apple, I have pretty much everything in my house is Apple. To be very honest, the product is substandard, right? If you really look at the specs on a MacBook compared to its competitors, honestly, Apple MacBooks are underperformers, right? But now, if you told somebody who is like dead head over heels in love with it, right? They'll start foaming at the mouth. They'll start getting angry because you're challenging them, right? In their mind, in their reality, you are challenging their beliefs by talking bad upon Apple, by devaluing them. But I love my Apple stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the product, right? It's really what they stand for. To give you an example, right? Any typical, and this is going to help you understand why Apple is the way that it is. Most of its competitors, when they describe or they're launching a new product, right? This is how they describe when they launch a new product. We have a new laptop that has been never seen before. The specs on the camera are uncompared, giving you 4K quality, a very elegant computer, and it's by far the most superior computer in today's generation, right? Doesn't sound too that's almost like any other commercial you hear, right? But here's what made Apple stand out. And this is really what's going to help you guys understand why understanding your why having your perception of things and making as a company ensuring that your perception aligns with what you sell is why Apple became so successful. It's not about what they had to offer, it's about what they stood for. And that's because their perception aligned with their customers. And that's why they have such loyal customers to the company. So here's Apple, right? Here's how Apple announced their product. And this is why they became so successful. So Apple would say, we believe, right? First statement, first two words, we believe, completely different from the previous. We believe in customizing and we believe in customizing the customer experience. It is in fact so important that people are able to express themselves freely that we had to find something that was going to reflect that principle that the world needs. I haven't even talked about Apple yet, right? This is why it's so amazing how they really launched their stuff, because they don't even have to talk about the product. They start off with their belief, their reality, their perception. Now they get into the product part, right? So we've come up with, in order to exceed the status quo, we came up with a device that allows not only the person to be completely customizable to the person, but allows that person to be able to express themselves in an open manner. We now introduce to you the MacBook Pro. Doesn't that sound so much more impactful? The fact that it did not even have to brag about the product itself, it started off with the vision, the why, their perception of what the world needs. Why do you think so many people gather and support Apple? They're paying almost twice as much as the normal pricing of these computers, but they do it because of what Apple stands for. It's not just about what they have to offer. Doesn't matter how they do it. It matters what they stand for, their reality. And when you find that your reality can align with so many people, you'll find yourself really attracting a massive tribe. And that is part of which, I know Instagram, I tune in a little bit later, but that is what Breakfast with Algernon is, right? It's not for fame, it's not for fortune, it's not to make money off of this, right? It's really to attract the right people into the community. And I gave a little bit more behind my why and why I started this channel. But long story short, I simply want people to be educated on the things that they won't teach you at school. And whether I make money off of this or not, the purpose is simply to educate, because I know what my reality is. I'm very affirm on where I'm at and what I want to see in the world. And I don't need to stick myself out. I don't need to overextend myself, because I know that the right people who share the same perception and reality, the same insights and values as me, will naturally come. And I have people like Daisy, Jay Miles, I believe my grandmother is even on here, that always stick around, and they always are tuning in, because I know that their reality aligns with mine. And that's honestly where it comes down to, is really making sure you share people with the right thoughts and values around yourself. Now, going back a little bit, why is this important for you? Why is it important to really have a strong sense of reality, an open mind to understanding alternate perceptions? It's because you can't teach until you start with where someone's at. Meaning, you can't teach somebody if you don't start with where their reality is. And that's something that I always am working on understanding more and more, because there's so many people out there that don't think the way I do. And they want to, but I have to start with understanding the way that they think. The sooner you understand how your perception becomes your reality, you'll be able to have more control over the things in your life. You no longer become victim of circumstances. You no longer say, I can't control this, or I did everything that I could. The moment you get into that mindset, you're giving power to, you no longer have control over your life. It's life that has control over you. So changing your perspective is literally going to give you the power to do anything you want in this world. But it all starts with you taking accountability with that and you seeing that life is what you choose to do, not what happens to you. So I know it's a bit of a buildup, but I really want you to understand how this applies into your own life. When you start to perceive the world as in a different way, that's when your life actually changes. If you refuse to be open-minded, to change the way that you think about everything, you'll continually stay in that same loop. You'll be in that same mindset and you'll wonder why things aren't changing. You'll wonder why you wake up every morning feeling the same way you feel, doing the same thing that you do, and not really feeling like you're fulfilled in your life. And that's ultimately what we all want. We all want to feel fulfilled. We want to wake up or we want to go to bed at the end of the day and say, wow, I feel so good. Everything I did towards now made me feel so good about myself and the things that I'm doing. So I want to end this call with really asking yourself, how do you see yourself? And how do you think others see yourself? If how you see yourself is not aligned with how others see you, then you have to do a really a serious reality check on what you're doing or essentially changing the way that you think because I know how others see me. Others see me based upon how I see myself. That's why I call myself King Algeron on Instagram and on YouTube because I see myself as a king. And how I see myself is how others will see me. But it all starts with that internal talk you have with yourself. And I definitely encourage you to do so. So to end this off on a note, understand that your perception is your reality, no one else's. And that goes vice versa for others. Just because you see that this book is blue doesn't mean everyone's going to see the same thing. And the sooner you can be open to understanding that your reality does not mean everyone has to share that, you can be more open minded to mentoring, to teaching others, and ultimately being able to create more like minded individuals when you can start with their reality, not on yours. So I hope you guys got some value off of this call. I love you guys. I'm going to spend some time with my kids because I've missed them so much. But if you guys got some value, definitely like this video on YouTube. Definitely share this with someone close to you that you may know. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this beautiful Sunday, whether it be raining, shining, or snowing. But thank you guys for tuning in. Definitely subscribe to the Breakfast with Algeron channel on YouTube. And I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing week. Let's set the expectation to really go out there and have a fulfilling week. And I will see you guys next week on Sunday at 10 a.m. Have a blessed and amazing day.